time in there. We'll start with, I'll call to order this special meeting of the Board of Supervisors and start the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The purpose of this meeting is to open bids for the Veneta Gap Dirt and Gravel Road Grant Project. So, say who it's from and what the three amounts are.
This one is CL Harder Excavating and Trucking. Where's the amounts at?
That should be that page right there.
This one?
Yeah. So say what
Okay,
it is.
for the compactable shale or equivalent, $12.25. 4 minus stone or equivalent, $12.25. And 2A stone is $15. And this one is Hanson Aggregates, Pennsylvania. And this one is for the compactable shale or equivalent, no bid. 4 minus stone or equivalent, $15.75. And 2A stone is $14.
What was the last one, please?
2A stone for $14.
14 per ton?
Yeah,
How many tons?
it's 5,000 plus or minus.
You don't have any of your stuff here with you for that, do you?
Huh?
Can you get that and can you total those up with her so that we have what the dollar amount's going to be for what we need while we go on to some of these other things? So we need to total up some of those numbers because they're going to be higher than what the grant was. So we need to see how much additional money that project's going to be.
Well, what I got out of the first one was $12.25, $12.25, and $15.
Right.
So, what we have to tally up is the number of tons per ton.
Right. He's going to do that while we move on, and we'll come back to that.
Okay, all right.
They're clearly less. Harder is less than Hanson,
Yeah,
but I want to see what the total amounts are.
okay.
Okay. So we do have some other items for business, so we'll allow for public comment at this time, if anyone wants to give public comment. Okay, no public comment at this time?
Oh, I might have. I'm not sure how to go about this, but a lot of people, I've been talking to a lot of people, and they don't realize that we do not have a fire company over here now. Their capabilities of fighting fire is setting over here, and the other tanker or pumper is over at Glegg's in Mill Hall. And we have to depend on mutual aid. We got called from mutual aid. They asked for the 6-wheeler, and they took brush truck. And then I guess they did, I don't know, if they have a trailer. George Shook used to see that 6-wheeler got out on wildfires. Well, our Rusby's chief threw George out of the company because he wasn't a fit firefighter. And so if we have mutual aid, that's all right. We just, we have to call mutual aid when they're nuclear fire at the right time, because we just don't have that. We don't have any pumpers. One sitting over here with the pump out, one sitting over there. I don't know what's wrong with it, but it's been over there for a good month, maybe Charlie knows more about it than I do. But
I haven't been told a thing.
people do not know what's going on in this township, in this fire company. And I talked to Doug the other day about it, and we have to, I think we have to do it, because if something happens and the fire company's in problems, you know where it's coming back to, township. And, you know, it's very possible that both the fire company and the township could be in court. I'm hoping that doesn't happen, but it could happen. So I just wanted to make that known, and a lot of people that I've talked to doesn't really know what's happening. They think they still have a fire company, they have full fire protection, which they don't have full fire protection. And I think we really need full fire protection. So I have been the EMA director for years, and our chief decided that he was going to wipe out all the channels on my radio, which he did, and never told me about it. I'm out there with people back in the mountain, especially, that come out to help if there's a storm or something, to cut roads in so we can get emergency vehicles back through. And that's a threat on life as far as I'm concerned. Because we'd been back there working at 2 o'clock in the morning or something, and somebody got hurt, I had no communications, I didn't know it. And then I called the center, they said, yeah, it was wiped out. And I said, why? He said, well, I'll have to check on it. Well, as soon as I hung up, he called the chief on the radio, and he said, I'll call you back, and he never called me back. So I called him again. And he said, well, we could probably reboot it, but we don't know who owns the radio. And I said, it's Farmers Relief Radio. You people had bought the first radio, and Doug remembers that. And then when they changed over, the chiefs got new radios. They gave EMA the one chief radio, which is basically just a plain radio, two-way radio. And they put EMA channels in. And of course, we wiped them out, and I've talked to several people about it, and they think it's all wrong, but so far they haven't been able to do anything. But I got a call into EMA now about it. State, you know. I talked to people over in Belfort, and they really can't do anything about it. So somewhere along the line, we're going to have to tell that chief over here to put that the radio belongs to Farmers Relief, but it is an EMA radio, and put those channels back in. Because that's dangerous. That is very dangerous. That's really all I have. Thank you.
You want to say about that as president?
I wasn't aware of any of that until Donnie just mentioned it.
Just like most of the residents of the township.
I can't help wondering if we shouldn't consider contacting Center Hall in Wilhelm and asking them to cover for us until the pumper situation gets resolved.
That's what they currently are, it's mutual aid.
Yeah.
But we can't, you would have to contract with them, and then the firemen's, the money we get would then go to whoever we contract with. So, but I don't know enough about the ins and outs of fire company operations to know whether that's something that needs to be done.
I'll call it, please, and talk to you about it. Maybe a good thing to do would be show up at the meeting Thursday night as a citizen and ask some questions. Meeting starts at 7.
The issue of the radio is a major issue though, and it was discussed at the EMA training that I went to in Potter, who said that all the EMA should have radios, so that needs to be figured out here, I would say by our next meeting, whether the fire company fixes what happened with the radio, or whether the township then has to purchase a radio for the EMA. Can you work on that?
I can ask Thursday evening. What does a radio cost, Dan?
I'm thinking $1,500 or something like that.
1,500.
I'm thinking that's what. Now I think you can probably get some that's got around 700, but I haven't bought a radio since I was chief probably, so.
When was it turned off, Donnie?
You remember when they had the gear inspection?
Oh, yeah.
I had all the channels when they announced it the first time. I had everything because I checked it. And when I went to come out to get my gear inspected, I checked and there wasn't anything on the radio. And so that's when I realized there wasn't channels on. So when I came out, they were checking me in, and I said, for some mysterious reason, all my channels got wiped out on the radio. And of course, Scott Brienne and Darren Kressler had a little conflict. They said they couldn't read a number, and they went over in the corner and they were talking. And then I was told by a fireman, he asked me if I had channels on my radio, and I said no. He said they had them wiped out. They weren't going to tell you when you took it in for repair, they were going to keep it. They were going to tell you that they were going to keep it a couple days, and then Scott was going to get it and not give it back to me.
That was what, a month ago? A little better?
Not about a month ago, I think.
Yeah, I think I'm going to have a discussion with this solicitor about these things and he says.
Is that it for that? Is that it for that discussion?
I don't know.
Thanks, Don. A couple things. Alternate SEO. So Stan Wallace is currently our alternate SEO, but he was the designer on the plans for Family Life of Penns Valley. But there's some clause that he would either have to resign as our alternate SEO, or they would then have to start all over again with a different designer, unless we amend the SEO fee schedule to add these last two lines on there.
You mean these last two paragraphs?
Yeah. So if we amend, so it's not changing any of the fees, it's just adding those stipulations. This way Stan can continue, and then Family Life can move forward with their project, which I believe is actually supposed to begin this week. But they couldn't have the permits issued until this issue was resolved.
I don't see an issue with that, do you folks? No, I
So I
don't.
just need a motion to amend the SEO fee schedule.
I'll make the motion. I'll second that.
Any further discussion?
Not really.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries unanimous. Next issue is the underground fuel tanks. So we had made the motion to get that work done on them from the DEP inspection. The guys from, what's the name of that company?
DMS.
EMS came out, and there were issues with, the plans had said that the pipes were fiberglass, but they're not, they're just metal and dirt. So that's not legal. So they sent another proposal out, which will move, is it the pumps? To on top of where the tanks are, so on top of the concrete slabs above the tanks, which will alleviate some of the piping issues and I mean, that's basically the gist of it, but the proposal is 10,900. But we're still under the gun time-wise because it's supposed to be done by the 15th. So we'll need to make a decision on what we want to do with that and make the motions.
And it would be a little bit of a blister, but I think for down the road, I'd still like to see them disappear, the fuel tanks.
It's gonna be, I followed up with some of them, and they said, even if we help, there has to be a certified person on board for us to take them out, so they figured $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 still to take them out, do away with them. We go to put in an above-ground storage tank. They said they're looking anywhere between $5,000 to $10,000 a piece per tank, one for gas, one for diesel. The plumbing of the gas one and the tank structure itself, they said everything's 3 times more on gas than it is for diesel. They actually said that the double wall tank that we have, there's no issues with the tank at this point. It looked pretty good. It's just like
They said we
Gary
could get
said.
another 30 years out of those tanks.
Yeah, but there's no guarantee with anything. That's the sad part. But the pipe that comes from the pump and curves elbows and goes over to the tanks was supposedly supposed to be encased in something. Well, that wasn't the fact when they dug it up the other day. So that's why all this is becoming. We could leave that existing system in place and put $4,000 more into it and put a sump in it, but they gave us the cheapest way of moving the pumps on top of the tanks now and going that route. They also said with the above ground tanks, they're having a lot of customers that are having some issues with gelling of the fuel because the fuel is colder then and it's not in the ground at ground temperature. I don't know if that's the thing. The advantages of the above ground tanks is right now there's not as much EPA and federal regulations or inspections required for them at this point. Down the road, who knows? Everything's going to be a pain. But we had the potential if we would ever move them. But you're looking at, like I said, $5,000 to $10,000 a tank plus all the plumbing and everything, plus the $5,000 at least to rip the old tanks out.
So you think the headache of traveling to Burkholder or to Center Hall still is too much of a risk?
Well, if you want to pay an employee an hour each time to go get fuel during the middle of a snowstorm and they're not plowing snow, I
Leave in
mean,
the township.
in
Another
a
township.
different township and put
Leave
them
in the
on.
township.
I mean, who's to say that there's not going to be a line a mile long? I mean, there might not be nobody. I don't know. I just don't like. Then it's us. I mean, the T-tags suck fuel like a pig whenever we plow with them. So it'd probably be every time that we plow, we'd have to go and get fuel at that point. And then you look at the safety aspect of our guys on the road more, as far as on a road that's traveled more too. So.
Just a thought. Well, yeah, the only, I mean, we have a front end loader and a backhoe too. And, we can't even carry enough on the pickup truck to fill one of those tanks, you know?
Maybe the backhoe, depending on if it was not completely empty, but the loader probably not. I don't know.
So what do you think? 6 to 1, half dozen of another. If it was my decision, I would get rid of it completely, but it's not my decision completely. I just hate to keep spending taxpayers' dollars, you know, on top of those tanks, regardless of which way you go.
But you'll be spending it, paying your employees to drive and get gas every time they need it from somewhere else. And
It's a 10-mile round trip. Know what it is? Well, either the heck, it's a Center Hall or Burkholder.
I mean, I guess you could figure you stop and get stoned and refuel your truck, you're looking at 15 minutes tops. I mean, to drive down there and still have to go back to the shed for more material. I mean, drive down or up. I mean, depends on traffic, depends on people in line in the store if you have to go. I mean, if you don't have a private credit card, so the only thing you have to probably wait for would be the people at the pumps. or employees
Yeah,
go in
I
and
think
get
it makes
coffee or.
sense to have your fuel and your salt and your gravel all centralized. You go in there, you make one stop, you load the trucks, put fuel in, and then you go back out again. And some snowstorms, that's much more critical than others, but it seems to make sense to me. We just fix what we have. It's going to cost less initially. And if we really want to go to above-ground tanks, we got to plan ahead for that, maybe, and investigate it. From what I remember in the past, that's the reason they're buried. We had them above-ground tanks.
Yeah, I don't know the above ground tanks.
No.
Well, another
Makes
thing
much
I
sense.
forgot too is we're gonna have to level out and pour pad, concrete, and then we're gonna have to put balusters around all of them. So
And
they're
you
not-
know regulation will be coming.
Yeah, it's only a matter of time. It's not if, it's when, but,
I mean, ideally, doing all this work would buy us, you're hoping at least 5 to 10 years.
Well, you're going to have, what, next inspection would be, what, 3 years, Brandon?
I think that's what they are.
So technically,
3 to
you have
5.
3 more years.
Like I said, they said that our computerized monitoring system is not a bad system, and they said the tanks themselves are not bad tanks. Their personal recommendation was to not go away from what we have because of the cost of taking out and then putting back in the new. So that was their recommendation, which, of course, I guess either way though, they're gonna get something out of it either way, so I don't know. You guys do what you think's best.
I wouldn't even consider putting tanks above ground.
Above?
No, I wouldn't. So why don't we go ahead and fix what we have and see how it goes from this point? But I wouldn't rule out the others in the future.
Yeah. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the proposal from EMS for $10,900 to DMS, not EMS, DMS, to repair the tanks.
I'll make a motion. I'll second that.
Any further discussion?
Not here.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimous.
You guys will get that email at some point. I just got it yesterday afternoon, so I sent it this morning. So you'll have all that. There's 2 attachments with it. You'll have all that information in front of you whenever it goes through.
And you guys are going to work on the certifications?
Yeah, we have to have ABC operators for that, which I think it's $100, and you have to have 2, $100 per certification. And I think that is, that don't end. The Class C, we have to have 1 Class C, and that can be also an AB, and we can train ourselves to do that, and I think that was $10 every time that had to get re-upped or something, so that one wasn't that expensive to get done. But my suggestion is to have me and Todd do it. I know right now, yeah, it's more, but, and maybe even Pam here would see what makes more sense, but before there was, 2 people were Class A, Bs, and I was a C. Well, they both left, and now where are we? We have to do it again. So.
Yeah, I think it would make sense for you and Todd to do the AB, and then,
We can make
we
either
can have Pam
Pam or one of us as a C as well.
yeah.
I mean,
So you'll work on that over the next 2 weeks then, before that deadline?
yeah. Well, we can.
Anything else on the fuel tank? Sarah Campbell Lane, we heard from Pantera and Ameron and Schleidens today. Do you have any questions that you want to ask right now?
Not at this point. I mean, do you have anything you want to tell me?
I have lots of comments.
Go ahead.
But it might be better to just wait until the next meeting.
Okay.
But the main thing, really, everything seemed to line up with the Sarah Campbell Lane side of things, in terms of specs and what it's going to look like. What needs to be figured out is whether or not we're doing a turn back with PennDOT on Penns Cave Road, which
There's mass confusion there.
is, yeah. Are you familiar with what we're talking about in terms
A little
of
bit,
turning
yeah.
back? from Ridge Road up to.
192?
Well, the initial turnback would be Ridge Road to 192, but then,
You want me to clarify?
then the Penn's Cave would have from Sarah Campbell Lane to 192. So the turnback would happen to the township for the whole thing, and then we would abandon that portion back to Penn's Cave?
Yeah, let me clarify. We had originally started talking turnback a number of years ago, previous administrations, roadmasters, and with the engineer. With Penn's Cave moving forward with Sarah Campbell, we want to revisit it. PennDOT wants to revisit the discussion. So at this point, yeah, the turnback we are talking about, and we had a preliminary proposal together, but we met with Brandon and looked at some things and need to refine that. But the turnback we're talking about would be from Ridge Road to Sarah Campbell. Sarah Campbell, we are thinking we would vacate ourselves, wouldn't have you do that. We would vacate that to the property owner, so you wouldn't have to do that. We can certainly entertain the whole thing and then you vacate to the property owner, but I'm pretty sure we can do the vacation. It would be easier on you, less legal paperwork for you folks. So the turnback we're talking about, the turnback program is a program from PennDOT where we can enter an agreement with you. We would give you a cash settlement to do repairs to the road, upgrade the road. That can be new pipes, paving, tree removal, drainage, any number of things that we, as the two entities, decided would need to be upgraded. And we can also talk about, in that, as an option for that, maybe making the intersection up at Sarah Campbell better as a township road, at least, you know, a better approach for through traffic, and then a better control at the entrance to what would be Penn's Cave, the back entrance, if you want to call it that. You'd also get a yearly payment of $4,000 per mile for the turnback. Right now, your regular liquid fuels is about $3,400 a mile. Turnback is a little bit more. So you would get the cash settlement towards all the work that needed done, and you would get a yearly payment of $4,000 per mile. We're working on a proposal for you now. We don't have it ready at this moment, but we'll get it for you probably within the next 60 days, I would hope. Any questions? We've talked about the concerns, some concerns already, I would say, with Brandon, some areas we need to refine the proposal.
None at this point.
Look forward to the numbers.
Very good, thank you.
Anything you want to add about Sarah Campbell Lane at this time?
I don't think so.
I think did I hear you're here to hear if there's anything about the Lower Georges Valley Bridge? They did the bid letting, so they got their bids in. I just called actually before this meeting to see if they had anything for us to approve in terms of the bids at this point. He said they don't have it all together yet, so I'm hoping by our April 11th meeting that they'll have more information for us to approve who won the bids for that. But
Yeah,
I think
just wanted them to see who was getting the bid and get them started.
Yeah, so I'm hoping by April 11th that we'll know who won the bid, and then we'll be able to approve
Okay.
that moving forward.
All right.
But it sounds like everything's still moving forward in their timeline, so
Okay.
feel free to call the office and ask questions anytime in there as well, but hopefully April 11th. I'll make sure to put that on the agenda if we do have that information before then, so you'll know
Yeah.
for that meeting I would be there. Okay, let's go back to numbers.
Numbers?
Yes.
All right, so whenever we did these bids, we originally went with compactable shale or the equivalent due to the fact of its surplus around here and thinking that it would be the cheapest. There was a spot that we thought we were going to get some from. The guy was really gung-ho about it, and then he kind of backed out last year, or the beginning of this year, but that is what it is. So we did compactable shale or equivalent, and we did 4- stone or equivalent in case we had to go the route of the quarry. and then we had 2A on top. So the cheapest price on, well, the two bids, Hanson and Harder, for compactable shale or equivalent, Harder was the only one that bid on that one, and it was $12.25 a ton. So to get our 5,200 tons, give or take, on that route, it's $63,700. The 4- he also bid on, which was $12.25 a ton. So I don't know if he's using the same material for that or what. It's both the same price, which is also $63,700 for our 5,200 tons, give or take. And then the 2A, his bid for 1,100 tons was $15 a ton, which comes out to $16.5. Hanson, as I said, their compactable shale or equivalent, they didn't bid on that. The 4- for 5,200 tons of that was $15.75 a ton delivered, so it's $81.9. And their 2A was $14 a ton for 1,100 tons, and that comes to $15.4. So for 4- or the compactable shale, which is our main fill material there, the Harder's price was cheaper. It was $12.25 a ton versus $15.75.
What did you have in the bid for that amount? What was your estimate on that?
Well, I bid off of what the guy told me last year, so it's not going to be. It's $46,000, and we're at $63,700 if we go the cheaper route.
So we need to come up with another $17,000.
Unless we can talk to the conservation district and
Or try and
work
get more money.
some magic on that.
Yeah. But regardless, we need to move forward and award the bid if we're going to continue with the project, because it has to be done
That's first week of June.
the first week of June.
We didn't get to do it last year due to the fact of it being wet, and some employees left, and
So we either turn down grant money and we don't do the project, which is a black mark to turn down grant money. Or we come up with $17,000 either from liquid fuels or road and bridges, or attempting to get more funding from the,
What do you think the possibility is, Brandon, to go back and see if you can get more funding?
I can try. I can't promise you anything, but
No.
I mean, they always said that it's easier to go higher, and like I said, there's a local person that said that they were interested in doing this last year, gave me a price, so I went ballpark off of that price, and then now, I did it last year as well with the Quarry Stone, which is substantially higher, obviously, and when you're going for the grant, I didn't want to make it $30,000 higher, so I'm the one, I screwed up. I should have went higher than what I did. It's my fault, but I don't know. I can call and see what I can do.
I would at least try.
so if we decide then to move forward with the project, then we need to make a motion to approve to
Right.
award the grant, or to award the bid to.
Are we able to come up with the other 17,000?
Out of liquid fuels, I would assume
I
that
mean,
we
I would-
could. There's
Yeah,
just
I
maybe
agree,
less
budget would
tar
be
and
better.
chip, maybe less tar and chip work that we do, but I was concerned about that as well, and like Carrie said, I guess that's what the money's for, is for roads, so.
You need a motion for that?
Motion to award the bid to,
Well, there's two different, the 2A was, Hanson was cheaper, and the bigger material for the fill material, CL Harder was cheaper.
Where are they out of now?
Harder.
Belfont, Pleasant Cap, Zion,
That was Hanson.
that one, this one's Hanson, no, this one's Hanson.
No, this one's Hanson.
Belfont.
So we would award the shale or 4- to Harder, and then the 2A to Hanson.
Well, if you guys go with the cheapest of each, which I would,
Does that cause a problem for you?
cheapest?
No,
I-
working with the two like that.
I don't think we still gotta just look at the bottom of the line, we'll figure, figure it out one way or another.
I would do it with the two cheaper ones.
Let's make two separate motions just to have them on there. So I'll entertain a motion to approve, to award the bid for 4 minus or shale or equivalent to CL Hardwick for $12.25 a ton.
I'll
Yeah.
make that motion. I will second it.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimous. I'll entertain a motion to award Hanson the bid for 2A for $14 a ton.
I will make that motion. Second motion here.
Any further discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimous. Anything else? We're going to go into executive session to discuss security matters. You're more than welcome to wait to come back in, but that's about all we're going to have, so.
Not an idea.
Turn that on.